Alright, Astrobro subscribers, and welcome back to the new series on this channel where we've been talking about Western and Vedic astrological concepts viewed through a somewhat psychological, somewhat mathematical lens, where I'm explaining these concepts to you in the hopes that you will use them to improve your life and help improve the lives of other people if this stuff resonates with you. Today we're going to be starting a new series. I got done with the Exalted and Debilitated Planet series. The reason I did the Exalted and Debilitated Planet series is that I wanted to show you some of the advantages and disadvantages of having certain planets in certain signs and houses. So I wanted to introduce you to the idea that not all placements are equally useful or equally good. Of course, you can't judge people as like an inherent merit based on astrology, but some people are going to have more difficult or frustrating or uncomfortable lives, generally speaking, and this is expressed in their astrology. So I wanted to introduce you to that idea, the idea of the positive and negative polarity of certain placements. And positive and negative is not good or bad. It just is. It's more like the electrical circuitry terms, like positive and negative polarity, or like yin and yang. Yin and yang are very different than good or bad, and it's very important to understand that distinction. But today I'm going to be starting a series on the Vedic Lord system, and this is a very, very useful and not very well understood astrological system where basically by looking at the Lord or the dispositor of a particular house or sign, what you can see the person's where they're going to get the results or the fruits of that sign. So let's say First Lord. Let's say somebody's First Lord is let's say their first house is Aries. They're an Aries ascendant. I've already made a video on that, what that means, what all the houses in an Aries ascendant chart are. But let's say that their First Lord is Aries. And that means that the dispositor of their first house is Mars. So their First Lord is Mars. And then you're going to look at where Mars is, and you're going to see that their self-image is not only tied up to the sign of Aries in the first house, but it's also tied up to it comes to that place, that first house, through wherever Mars is in their chart. So let's say that somebody has an Aries ascendant, and their Mars is in the 4th house in Cancer. And let's compare that to a person who has an Aries ascendant, same first sign and everything, same ascendant sign, but instead their Mars is in Sagittarius in the 9th house. All right. So the person with the Mars in Cancer in the 4th house is going to be far more volatile, because remember from the last series, Mars is debilitated in Cancer. They're going to be very volatile, much more explosive, much more internal, much more introverted, introspective. And the person with the 9th house, Mars in Sagittarius, is going to be far more extroverted, far more interested in philosophy and that kind of thing. And, going out, talking to people, learning about new belief systems, attending classes, attending lectures, all this stuff, because Sagittarius is the sign of education and learning. And as I've made videos on that, explaining that. So basically I'm going to make a series of 12 videos, and they're going to run a little long, but because each house, I'm going to do all 12 lords. I'm going to do an explanation of all 12 lords for each particular house, and hopefully by the end of this series, even if it can be confusing at first, you will understand much more how to use the chart to understand the things that people are meant to do in their life. Because if you understand the Lord system, you really understand it, you will understand your purpose in life pretty clearly. Like, you will not wake up in the morning with like a mystery of what you should be doing. Like, there's a very clear path that this lays out, and you can believe that or you cannot believe it, but I think it's better to know what the universe has intended for you rather than just guessing. So yeah, and again, astrology is not set in stone. I think of this as the path of least resistance for a person, rather than their destiny or having it be like predetermined or anything. I mean, I'm a big believer in free will, but I do believe that will is not entirely free. For instance, you can't use free will to run up a hill without it taking more energy than running on flat ground. And in the same vein, you can't use free will to do something that isn't connected to your purpose, the path that you're meant to take or whatever. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into the first Lord through houses series. And here we go. So the first Lord in the first house. So whenever a planet or a house's lord is in itself. So let's say you're an Aries ascendant, just to use that example, and Mars is in your first house, or you're a Gemini ascendant, which is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury's in your first house in Gemini. Anything where the first lord is in the first house, this person is going to have self-created self-confidence. So rather than their personal drive and ambition being motivated by something else, it is internal. They're like an internal combustion engine. They're a self-perpetuating motion machine. These people have very strong egos. These people are very driven. This is altogether a very, very good system, or a very good... sorry, I got to get these headphones out. This is a very good placement if your first lord is in your first house. And particularly if your first lord is a masculine, more active planet like Aries ascendant, Gemini ascendant, Leo ascendant, anything ruled by Jupiter. These people are going to be very, very driven and assertive, and this is good. These people tend to have pretty strong, confident egos and that kind of thing. Okay, moving on. First lord in the second house. These people define themselves, this is a slightly less favorable position. These people define themselves by essentially their material existence. They define themselves by their clothes, by their money, by their job, all the earth sign type stuff. And it's not necessarily a bad placement. I would say it's slightly more of a debilitated lord placement to have first lord in the second house. But on the flip side, just like with debilitated Jupiter, those people do very, very well in financial situations, and they have a very, very aesthetically refined appearance. But they may struggle with self-confidence. So it's good to be aware of that. First lord in the third house. First lord in the third house people define themselves by their ability to speak and their ability to write and create things with their hands. So let's say that this would be first lord in the third house. Let's say this is a Cancer ascendant, which the first lord is Moon, and they've got Moon in Virgo in the third house. Yeah, so basically, just as an example, or let's say that this is a Gemini ascendant with Sun in Leo in the third house. These people, again, they're very artistic, they're very creative, they're very loquacious, they have a big vocabulary, and they're very good talkers. These people have a silver tongue. First lord in the fourth house. First lord in the fourth house people they're introverted, they are introspective, they're very self-aware, and I would say the best word to describe these people is cautious. These people have anxiety, but it's the type of anxiety that will make them look both ways before crossing the street. They're very pragmatic, and they're cautious about rising up to a very, very great height because great heights are unstable. So they tend to stay low to the ground, safe, and because of that, they tend to live quite comfortable lives, even though their lives might not be the most exorbitant. Now, obviously, if your first lord is like Sun or Jupiter or something, and it's in the fourth house, then you're going to be more extroverted and more expansive in your nature than somebody whose first lord is like Moon or something, and then they're a Cancer ascendant with like Moon in Libra in the fourth house or something like that. First lord in the fifth house. This is very similar to first lord in the third house. So let's say that this is a Gemini ascendant with Mercury in Libra, or it's a Scorpio ascendant with Mars in Pisces. These people are very politically aware. They're very philosophically aware. They have a lot of confidence, and it's sort of a chill confidence in that they sort of express confidence without having to say anything. Where somebody with first lord in the third house might talk a mile a minute, somebody with first lord in the fifth house it's a passive form of confidence. Like they already know that they are fit to lead, and people naturally gravitate around them. So this is a very favorable placement, first lord in the fifth house. First lord in the sixth house. First lord in the sixth house people their identity is wrapped up in their ability to argue and communicate and think. So these people are very health aware, they're very health conscious, they're very rational, and generally this is a good placement for things like health. They tend to over-intellectualize things, however, and they tend to suffer from low self-esteem. So that is a thing that happens. However, they are very intelligent, so it's good to listen to these people, even if you might not want to live their life. No offense to anybody with that placement. You might not want to live their life, but if you don't have this placement, these people are some of the smartest and most informed people that you will ever meet. First lord in the seventh house. This is a somewhat debilitated placement. It's an opposition. It has kind of a dissonant nature. First lord in the seventh house people, so let's say a Leo with an Aquarius sun, Leo ascendant with an Aquarius sun, a Cancer ascendant with a Capricorn sun, etc. These people they're somewhat insecure, but that insecurity comes out as extreme projection of confidence, especially through their voice and through their posturing and through their negotiations. They feel like they're owed a lot, and if they don't get that, they can get very, very irritated. These people deal with a lot of negative emotion because the seventh house represents deals with other people and equality. It represents the scales, right? Like a marketplace, Libra. And if you put the king of the protagonist of the story in a marketplace where everybody's effectively equal and they only come in with what they can trade with, their title doesn't mean anything, this king feels frustrated. And he has these people have a lot of self-esteem issues because they feel like people should respect them, but people often don't respect them. Often these people are also short. These people are often much shorter than average. So with this placement, the best thing to do is subordinate your ego and help other people. And if you start helping other people, then people will respect you much more. All right, halfway done. First lord in the eighth house. These people are natural, in-depth researchers. Their life's purpose is to gather hidden information, hidden depth. They know a lot about psychology. They're very intuitive. They can look at a person and just sort of understand their motivations. Very, very sort of hypnotic personalities. So this is a fairly good position. These people are like basically low-key powerful. Like, they sort of have an aura to them that draws people in because people can sense that they are very aware of their surroundings and they know things other people might not know. The only downside I would say to this is if Moon is your first lord, let's say a Cancer ascendant with your Moon in Aquarius, the information that these people pick up from their surroundings can be extremely overwhelming and debilitating to them, and they can suffer from anxiety and like sort of a lot of neuroticism. First Lord in the ninth house. These people have a natural inclination toward teaching. They're very, very, clever and they can learn very quickly and then project that learning and help other people by teaching them what they know. So this is a very favorable position, very optimistic position, these people have a lot of good information, but their information is mostly, their main skill is being an effective mass communicator, mass teacher of the masses, and like basically have a preacher's mindset, which is very, very useful, and these people can be very popular. First Lord in the 10th house. First Lord in the 10th house people are they define themselves by their work and by what they do for people, and they're very orderly, and they follow their responsibilities, and they do their job. These people are very conscientious, and they weigh their self-worth by how many other people they help. So in all, this is a very good position that gets better over the course of one's life. These people can definitely become famous after the age of 30 or 45, and they can accelerate that process by trying to help as many people as they can in the most efficient way that they can. First Lord in the 11th house. Excuse me. First Lord in the 11th house people define themselves, it's very similar to First Lord in the 10th house, actually. These people define themselves by how many people they can reach with their message. So instead of how many people they can help, it's how many people that they can convey their knowledge and wisdom to. So these people are sort of weird and eccentric. They have a lot of useful information for people, although the main danger of these people is that they can identify with systems that may not serve them just so they can get attention. So it's very good to be cautious of that if you have First Lord in the 11th house. With this being said, if you can affirm that the information that you have is true and useful and helpful, then, and not get like caught up or hung up on an ideology, then you can be extremely effective as a communicator with the First Lord in the 11th house, and you can get a lot of material success and fame out of sharing your message with people, because if you have a good message, it's all about the quality of the message. And finally, First Lord in the 12th house. First Lord in the 12th house people, it can look from the outside like a debilitated position. These people are, it's very similar to First Lord in the 8th house. These people are very aware of their surroundings. They're very introspective, again. They have a spiritual edge to them, and they're curious about almost everything, but they take their time in their curiosity. So they don't have this intensity, this need to find out. Like, they're very chill in their exploration of reality. But by following their intuition and their dreams effectively, and not needing things to make sense, these are the type of people, if they get the intuition to get up and move to another country or state, they should do that, because what they gain by traveling and by researching strange areas and topics is going to ultimately shape their reality in a way that it wouldn't for somebody else, and it will make them better people. So that was my analysis of First Lord through signs and houses. I know this video ran a little long. But yeah, basically, just in summary, the lord of a particular house, the dispositor of the house, where it's placed in your chart is like a gate through which the fruits of that house in your chart will come to you through. And this will definitely start making more sense as I progress through the videos in this channel, And if you're confused, please drop a comment and I will do my best to answer your questions. This is a complicated topic, but if you understand this topic, your level of astrology will go from like here to here. Like how much you're able to help people with this as a counselor, as a person using this as a tool to help people, other people and yourself in life, it will exponentially increase. And so it's worth learning this, even if it can be confusing and there are a lot of moving parts in the system. So tune in next time for the second Lord Through Houses series, and in that one I'll teach you how to make money. I'll see you then.